Hi, hi. Well, it's a bit wet and it's absolutely freezing and a little bit windy, but I thought we would take a little wander around. Oh, there we go with the wind. Welcome to Edinburgh. Right, I'm just trying. There we go. Back again. When your fingers are cold, sometimes they don't register on the screen. Now, at the moment, we're in Greyfriars. I love Greyfriars. It's a lovely kirkyard. So, lots of monuments in here. This one, as you're looking at it, a lot of people think it's quite sinister, but it's not really. So all the tools of the man's trade are down the side. So we've got syringes and knives and that kind of thing, because he was a surgeon. Yeah, and at the bottom here you can see a coffin with the grave digger's tools, and then you've got the skull with the crossed bones. Everybody thinks that that's, pirates and things, but no, it's basically a sign of mortality. The one sure thing in life is death. And you've got a skeleton dancing there. The man was a surgeon, he worked with skeletons all his life. It's a nice little nod, I quite like it. Hi Agatha, I'm just trying going live in vertical today, just because I can, and I thought I'll give it a bash. Let's see where we get to. So Greyfriars, this was the main burial ground for the city. From sort of the 1500s onwards. We had been using the burial ground outside St Giles, but once the monastery had gone, Mary Queen of Scots gave this land to the city as a burial ground. It's got some quite interesting features. I'll show you some. Right here we've got a mort safe. A mort safe is a death safe. It's not to stop the dead from rising, it's to stop the living digging them up, because I know we had a very good medical school, and behind the buildings over here is where the university is and where the medical school is. So this was a really easy target if people were needing bodies for dissection back in the day. So yeah. So there was the Greyfriars. They were called Greyfriars because they wore unbleached wool clothing. They were Franciscan. So we had a Franciscan monastery here. And the church itself dates back to the 1600s. It's seen a lot of changes. It did have a little squat tower at this end, but the council in Edinburgh decided to use it to store, I think it was gunpowder, and there was an explosion and we lost the little tower, and then it had been separated into two congregations, and now it's where the Gaelic speakers worship. They have the English services in first and then the Gaelic speakers. Now the wall you're looking at with these monuments, that's actually the Flodden Wall from 1513. So just ahead of us you can see there's an opening. So if we were to go through that, then we'd be outside the footprint of the old town. And we have these little sort of flower beds. They don't look great just now because it's February. So we've got culinary herbs in this one. And in this one here we have the medicinal herbs. So you've got all sorts of things. You've got calendula, marigold, rosemary for remembrance. It's good for your memory, rosemary tincture. And then we've got foxglove. Foxglove gives you digitalis. So lots of interesting plants. And we can't see them all just now because some have been blown over and things. But when it starts to come back to life, they've got these lovely little signs that tell you a little bit about it. And this is to remind us of the Franciscan monks, because they were known as the brothers of the poor. They looked after the poor people in Edinburgh. So, but yeah, if you get the chance, it's a great one to come in and walk around. We could spend all day just walking around the graveyard, but I'm going to take us out and into the Royal Mile. So we're looking at the old town. You can see the big steeple, that's the hub, the Tolbooth Highland Kirk of St John. And then you've got the castle behind that tree, we can't quite see it. So you can see there's a valley here. Edinburgh's a great place, it's built on lots of hills. So we have lots of bridges in the old town that don't actually cross water. So bear that in mind. Yeah, they're trying very hard to pedestrianise the city, but it's very, very hilly, and that's just not practical. People, for all reasons, can't do hills, or, but what can we say? Other cities in Europe do it, but they're flat. Anyway, so the church has two. There's one of the entrances. The other entrance we can't quite see from here. That's the original one to let you in. Then they built this little portico on. So if you get the chance and the church is open, it is worth going in and having a little look. It's got a nice little museum all about the burial ground and the history of the church. And then it's got a lovely organ and things. So yeah, now actually what I'll do, I'll take you over. I don't normally go, but I'll take you and show you where Bobby's master was buried. So these are houses and businesses, okay, and the gravestones back onto these. We were a walled city, very overcrowded. Can't tell you how cold it is. It's absolutely freezing. Oh my goodness. Anyway, there's some really lovely monuments here. One day I'll bring you in and we'll do that. We'll go down and have a look at all the ones on this side. So here is where John Gray is buried. Now John Gray was Greyfriars Bobby's master, and he died when the dog was 2, and the dog followed his funeral cortege into the graveyard and slept by his grave for 14 years. Now, I'm not sure why people are finding it appropriate to put sticks at John Gray's grave, and was that hyacinths? Yeah, it's a bit weird, but anyway, there is a tradition with the memorial to Bobby that you leave a stick there because dogs like sticks, so that's what that one's for. But yeah, and the trouble is we get some people leaving soft toys for Bobby, which, you know, is a nice thought, but it rains constantly here and they always end up really gnarly and soggy and horrible. Right, so I'll just show you the memorial to Bobby and then we can go out and see his statue. There is a nice statue that's just been installed of the dog. These are life-size statues. He wasn't a big dog. So there you can see the statue of Bobby, and here we've got the little memorial. And again, people have left flowers. It looks like they've actually pulled them up by the roots there. And coins, that's not a tradition, it's sticks. It's always been the tradition that you leave a stick for the dog. Oh, excuse me, my nose is running because of the cold. Now, Bobby was actually buried just outside the gates here. He wasn't actually buried in the burial ground because you can't, or you couldn't bury animals on consecrated ground. Now, the building straight in front of us, that's the Museum of Scotland. The modern part, this section, is all about the history of Scotland. The Victorian part is about the history of the world. So I'm just going to get us across the road. Here we are. And to get into the museum, you just go along Chambers Street just here. And it's free. The great thing is most of the museums in Edinburgh are free to visit. Now here's the statue of Bobby. Now the plinth, it's a polished granite plinth. The top bowl was for humans, the bottom bowl was for dogs. And then you can see the statue. Now unfortunately it got onto the internet in 2012 that it was good luck to rub his nose. It's never been a tradition, it isn't a lucky thing to do, and unfortunately his nose has been rubbed away. So if you do come to Edinburgh, please don't rub Bobby's nose, okay? We don't like it. Now here you've got Candlemaker Row, so that's where the candle makers lived and worked, and you can see it's going downhill, but as we stand here it's flat, and that's because this is a bridge. So there's a valley below us as we're walking along here. So this is George IV Bridge. Right. And it is very wet, but at least it's not heavy rain. So that's good, just cold. So you've got the museum, you can see the Museum of Scotland just there. I'm actually going to take us across the road at this point, just because it's looking busier on this side. There we go, we'll get across the road. Right, chilly. Okay, so we're just going to head on to the Royal Mile. And the Royal Mile goes from the castle at the top to the palace at the bottom. 1 mile 106 yards between two royal residents. You'll find that the Scottish place names are great because they tell you who lived there, what was carried out there, or what you're actually looking at. They're very descriptive. Then you've got the Elephant House Cafe. They've had to move just now while it's being restored. There was a fire in this building here. That's the Sheriff Court. Right. Sorry about the noise. Digging up the roads or something. Now, just ahead of us is where one of the open arches is on the bridge, and you'll be able to see the Cowgate below us. Right. There we are. So there you can see we're most definitely on a bridge, and that is the Cowgate Cows Walk. It's the old Rovers Road, the way that they brought the cattle up to the grass market. Oh, that's windy. Right. Now, across the road, that's the Central Lending Library. It was built with money gifted by their Carnegie Trust. And as you walk in there, I think you're about 4 stories up already. Above the door it says "Let There Be Light," and on the outside you've got all the book plates from different printers in Edinburgh. So it's a beautiful building. The building next to us though, this is the National Library of Scotland, and this is a deposit library, so copyright. It is windy, yeah, I know. I was in 2 minds about coming out actually to try it in vertical, but I'm glad I did. When I first started with beams, they were vertical, so it's kind of nice to go back to that. And I suppose if you're watching on your phone, it makes more sense. Right. Oh, sorry about the wind again. I've tried to wrap it in my scarf, but I don't seem to have done as good a job as I did yesterday. Right. And here we have Parliament Hall. So as you look here, you can see this building with the big windows. That's Parliament Hall. That's where the Scottish Parliament was held from the 1630s to 1707. Now the building with the green dome, that was the head office of the Bank of Scotland. Now the Bank of Scotland was founded in 1695 by an Englishman, but it's okay because the year before the Bank of England was founded by a Scot. Crazy, isn't it? So yeah, so we're just about to join the Royal Mile. Oh, I can't tell you how cold my fingers are. Now, on the corner, once this coach gets out the way, you can see Deacon Brodie's Tavern. Deacon William Brodie, he's got an interesting story. By day he was a respectable gentleman, and at night he used to rob people. We might get onto that later. Now, if you went up, that would take you up to Edinburgh Castle. In fact, we can see just a little bit of the castle at the very top there. But we're going to head down. We're in the Lawn Market, but we're about to go into the High Street. Now there is a brass stud on the road here. It's marking the site of the last public execution in Edinburgh, and that was the Rathole murderer. He was executed on the 21st of June 1864. But the crowd behaved very badly, and it was decided there would be no more public executions. Now here we've got St Giles. It is known as St Giles Cathedral. It's not actually a cathedral though. It's the High Kirk of Edinburgh, the High Church. It's Presbyterian, and the Presbyterian Church doesn't have bishops, so they don't have cathedrals. The statue you can see, That's the 5th Duke of Buccleuch, the Marquess of Queensberry. The Buccleuch family were one of the largest landowners in Scotland. It was said you could walk from one side of the country to the other without coming off their land. Aye, what a problem to have. Now, this area is where the Edinburgh toll booth was. Now, the Edinburgh toll booth was like the prison for the city. And it was notorious throughout Scotland because of the conditions, but it was eventually taken down. But it had an execution platform on top and things like that. Absolutely brutal. It did have a water supply though. And this is the heart of Midlothian, and this is marking the entrance to the toll booth. Now, the tradition is you spit on it. You're either spitting on it because you're showing contempt for the... Well, you spit on it for good luck, you don't walk on it because it's bad luck. But traditionally you spat on the toll booth door, either showing contempt for the law or contempt for the prisoner, depending which side you were on. Now, here we've got West Parliament Square. And the Signet Library is just in front of us. But I'll let you see the entrance to St Giles. This is a facelift it had in the 1800s. The church itself was given its royal charter in the 1100s by David I, who was the son of Queen Margaret, St Margaret. He built a lot of the border abbeys and things. Right, let's just head round here. Oh, the wind has stopped, thankfully. Now, where that group is standing is where John Knox, the religious reformer, is buried. He wanted to... I just love that. Does that not look like something out of a Sherlock Holmes movie? So yes. Now, so we have the High Court here, well, the Supreme Court, so this is civil cases. On the other side, across the road, is criminal cases. So here we've got a statue. This is the oldest lead equestrian statue in Britain. It was meant to be Oliver Cromwell, but things changed very quickly, and rather than waste the statue, they simply changed the head. Now it's Charles II. I know. There you go. Right. This is definitely an interesting day, Ben. It's chilly. Oh, there's the wind again. Right, I don't know if I'll be able to show you this, but you see the downpipe? Right at the top there's a grotesque, and he just looks like a teddy bear. You just want to cuddle him. There's nothing scary about him at all. He's just really cute. This is the entrance to the Thistle Chapel. The Order of the Thistle is the highest accolade any Scot can get. It's equivalent to the Order of the Garter in England. And if they've got enough volunteers in the church, they do open it up so people can go in and have a look, but they have to have somebody in there because people have stolen parts of it, which is really sad. Now, this is James Braidwood. He founded the first municipal fire service in Britain. It was so successful he took the idea down to London, where he set up the London Fire Brigade, and from there the pattern spread around the world. Right, okay, so this is the Market Cross. You can see the shield up there with, that's the University of Edinburgh coat of arms. Then we have the Canongate's coat of arms with the stag's head and the cross between the antlers. Persevere, that's the Port of Leith. You've got Ireland up here, and then if you look, you can see the King's coat of arms in Scotland. This is the Scottish version. Now, if you look at the top, you can see there is a unicorn. In Scotland, the armorial bearer is a unicorn. In England, it's lion. There we are. Now, so this is part of the high street that we're on. We're back on the Royal Mile. We just kind of walked around the city chambers just through here. The city chambers was built to get the merchants off the street because they were trying to improve the image of Edinburgh. And the Market Cross is where all the people would gather and talk about things of the day and where all the market and the trading went on. And up the side of John Knox's house we had the locked booths as well, so it was very overcrowded, so we're trying to improve our image. But the merchants didn't like it, so they moved back out, and eventually it became the Chambers, which is the mayor's office. So we don't have a mayor, we have a Lord Provost. Ooh, it's a little bit nippy out here, I'm telling you. You're watching for Ghana, hello. I hope it's warmer there than it is here. This is Adam Smith. He was an economist, he wrote Wealth of Nations. That's his statue. It's actually quite a nice view from over here. So when you look up, you've got Adam Smith and you've got the church and the Market Cross just in the background there. It's actually quite busy. Oh, and the other thing we've got, if you do come to Edinburgh, there's lots of these water fountains, so you can refill your bottle and it's free. You just press that and on you go. So you'll see the street names Close, C-L-O-S-E. A close originally was a dead end that took you to the staircase at the back of the building, and this one's Old Fish Market Close. So the name's telling you a story. It's where the fish market was. Borthwick's Close, if it's named after someone, like Borthwick, the rich person that lived there, the important person, then that's where it gets its name from. And then we have Old Assembly Close, where the old assembly rooms were, New Assembly Close, where the new assembly rooms were. So you kind of get the idea of how the streets work. Right, let's have a little look over here. This is Anchor Close. It doesn't look that spectacular, but use your imagination. Let's see, what's it doing today? Yeah, we've got all the bins out today. But if you look down, you can see there's a light coloured building at the end. That's actually, there's a little road there, so you cross over and continue downhill. Now, Anchor Close takes its name from the Anchor Tavern, so the main feature was the pub, but it's also where the Encyclopaedia Britannica was first published in 3 volumes. So yeah, now have a little look out for these plaques if you do come to Edinburgh, because they give you little snippets of the history of the buildings that you're looking at. Right, now just ahead of us is Gordon's Trattoria. I'm going to show you a plaque on the side of it. So Gordon's Trattoria is where James Gillespie of Spylaw had his tobacco and snuff shop, okay? And it was very common at the time, if you were a wealthy merchant and you wanted to, you know, increase your social standing, you would found a hospital school or a hospital orphanage, which is what happened. No, it's Edinburgh. We're in Edinburgh, Scotland, at the top end of the UK. So yeah, so anyway, James Gillespie of Spylaw founded James Gillespie's Hospital School, which later became James Gillespie's High School, which is the school I went to. Why is this important, I hear you say? Well, his snuff was so good that if you tried his snuff, you never went anywhere else. And his shop would open at 10 o'clock in the morning and close at 10 o'clock at night, and there'd be queues out the door. He put opium in his snuff. So my claim to fame is, I went to a school that was founded by a drug dealer. There you go. I know, I'm never going to be famous, but anyway. Bell's Wind. Now the word wind, W-Y-N-D, means it's a through gang. You come in at the top and go out at the bottom. Oh, the bins haven't been emptied yet, so it's looking a bit miserable. Ooh, the coffee house has had a revamp. Isn't that looking nice? Okay. And then just here is one of the closes that they've done some work to. They've put light installations in to try and encourage people to use them. It's okay if you live here because you're used to these streets being narrow, but if you're a visitor and you're not used to narrow streets like this, and when it's night time it can look quite dark and it can be quite scary, but it's not really. So what they've done is they've put these light cutouts with the birds, and they put light through it, and it moves every now and again, so you get like the birds fluttering going along with the beams of light. You see how it just changed there? So I think that's it's a really nice, at night it looks absolutely gorgeous. And it's just to try and encourage people to use the close, because this one takes you straight down into the Cowgate, so it's a really direct route. Stephen's Law Close, there's been a close on that site for 860 years at least. Now, across the road we have Flesh Market Close. A flesher is a butcher, so that's where the butchers and the abattoir were. And these, as you can see, the big arm here, it's for closing the street off and pedestrianising it. So you've got Coburn Street. Coburn Street is named after Henry Lord Coburn. Now, there is a CK in the middle of the word Coburn. It is pronounced Coburn. If you pronounced the CK and he was the judge on your trial, he would increase your sentence. So yes, Coburn Street. And this is an old police box. Before we all had phones and things, if you needed to contact the police, you would come to this box, and there inside was a telephone. There was a first aid kit and a wash hand basin, so it could be used to help somebody that was injured, to phone the police to get them to come to the site, or it could also be used if someone was like drunk. They could be locked inside until transport came to take them to prison or whatever. And then the dome in the distance there, that's Old College for the University of Edinburgh, which was originally called the Old College. And you have a golden statue on the top, youth holding aloft the torch of knowledge. And this is the Tron, T-R-O-N. It's no longer used as a church, and it takes its name from the the salt tron that stood outside the church. And a tron was like a weighing beam, so it was a public set of scales. So if you felt you'd been cheated, your 3 pounds of potatoes felt light, you could have them checked here. Now, it's an indoor market, so you can go in and you can see the stained glass windows, the hammer beam ceiling, and it's local artists and artisan, handmade in Scotland. So if you're looking for something that's not mass produced, then this is quite a good option if you're in the old town. A lot of the shops in the old town are all owned by the same people, so it's a shame we don't seem to have any of the artisans left. Now, here's another bridge. This is the South Bridge. It's over 1,000 feet long. It has 19 arches, and only one of the arches is open, and that's to allow the Drovers Road, the Cowgate access into the Grass Market. So we're still in the High Street section of the Royal Mile. Oh, that wind's a bit strong, sorry about that, there's not a lot I can do. So we're just looking down Nidri Street, and you can see the Cowgate at the bottom there. So the ridge that we're on is getting slightly less steep, it's getting more manageable here. Whew. Now this hotel is the Radisson Blue, and it's actually built on this site. It was a massive gap site, and they couldn't sort of agree. Actually, I'm going to cross the road because there's somebody doing roadworks ahead of us, and I think it'll just be too noisy. There. Right. Oh. Right. I'm sorry about the wind. Oh my. So the Radisson Hotel goes from this corner all the way along to this corner. Now it's, how old is it now? 34. No. Yeah, 34 years old. But part of being allowed to build here is they had to build in keeping with the rest of the old town. And I think they did a really good job. I mean, as you look at it now, you can see it's brand new, but you know, as you walk past it quickly, you don't realise. It blends in quite well. Right. Let's see what else we... Oh, and there's a sock shop. It's a new shop, and all it does is sell socks. Yeah. So if you come to Edinburgh and you're looking for a fancy pair of socks, now you know where to go. Now across the road we've got Blackfriars Street. Blackfriars Street was originally Blackfriars Wynd, and that led to the Blackfriars Monastery. Let me see if I've got this right. I think the Blackfriars were Benedictine. The clothes they wore were black, the robes were black, so that's why they were called the Blackfriars. But yeah. I crossed the road and he's not making any noise. Oh well. So yeah. Now what you're seeing with the shops on the ground floor, that's typical of Edinburgh. It was always like this. shops on the ground floor, and then people living above. So Paisley Close, if you're looking for a kilt, that's where we get our kilts made. I'm just going to keep going because he's too noisy. See, that's what I get for saying, oh, he's not making any noise. Now just ahead of us, that's John Knox's house. John Knox was the religious reformer. He's the man that pushed through the religious reformation in Scotland, so going from Catholic to Presbyterian. Now here we've got Chalmers Close, and just as you go down you can see the blue. Just tucked in behind it there on the left, that's where you'll find the Museum of Magic, Fortune Telling and Witchcraft. So yeah, I think we really need a much bigger museum to witchcraft and explain to people what it was. Beans on toast. Where was beans on toast? I missed that. Oh dear. So yeah, so John Knox's house, we've got the wellhead here. See if I can let you see it. It's a bit of a mess with the stuff at the moment. But you can see here the mouth, that's where the water would come out. And you see how it's worn away just here. That's where you'd put your foot, you'd rest your bucket on your knee and then you'd pump with your right hand. And that's where the pump handle would be to get the water coming. Yeah, no running water in the houses. So you had these wellheads. So you've got John Knox's house here. Underneath the window you can see a marriage stone. It says IMMA, James Mosman Marietta Rez. So James Mosman was actually jeweller to Mary Queen of Scots. And then you've got this inscription, love God above all and thy neighbour as thyself. And then just on the corner of the building here you can see a sundial. You've got Moses reaching up to God to receive the 10 Commandments. And then we've got a force there, an outside staircase leading up to the apartment above. John Knox's house, beautiful little Scottish bookshop inside. The cafe's lovely. It does haggis in various forms of haggis. So it has traditional, it has vegan and vegetarian. So you can definitely try haggis when you're here. No excuses. Across the road you can see Tweeddale Court. That's a very elaborate entrance to it. It's a lovely little court. When you go in there, there's a beautiful old house and things, part of the city wall from the 1450s. So definitely, if you're down this way, have a little look in. I'll just actually, Baron Muir's Close takes you down. You can't get in it, you have to go in through Trunk's Close, but you've got a lovely little garden at the back there. There's lots of little green spaces in the city that you just don't realise are there. Oops, it's a little bit slippy. Now, this is where we change from Edinburgh to the Cannon Gate. I mean, it's all one now, but originally this was where there was a division. On the ground you can see these brass studs, and that's showing you the line of the gate. So there was a wall running right in front of us and behind us, the Flodden Wall from 1513. And if you see here, you can see it says the World's End. And the World's End Close is just further up, but the bus is now in the way. For the poor people in the city, this is the end of the world because you had to pay to get back in. So a lot of people lived an entire life within the city walls and never actually left Edinburgh. Now here we've got Jeffrey Street, and you can see a castellated building up on the hill there. That's all that remains of the old Calton Jail. That's the Governor's Mansion. So we had a prison up there. And if you look across the road now, just above the traffic lights, you can see the change in the name. We've got the Royal Mile in black, and then it says the Cannon Gate, because at the bottom we had the Augustinian canons, the Abbey of the Holyrood, the Holy Cross. And there's another police box. It's now a coffee shop, and you can see that castellated building again. And the obelisk next to it, that's the Martyrs Memorial. And then the little round tower just poking up there, that's David Hume. There. Right. I do actually want to be on the other side of the street, so because I want to take you in. Let's see if we can get across here just now. The lights are still lit. There we go. Right, so we're in the Canongate. It's much more relaxed in the Canongate. The buildings aren't as high because there wasn't a city wall. And we're going to go into Pirrie's Close. So Pirrie's Close, that's this one here. And look, we have artwork on the walls. It's really lovely. And at night it's lit up. And as you can see, you get these light reflections on the other side. So it's quite a nice way to do it. So you've got thistles, ladybirds, there's a fox and an owl. And then it opens up into Chesil's Court, this lovely big open area. Now we saw Deacon Brodie's Tavern when we were up at the top. Deacon William Brodie, hi Hugh, hi Samuel. Deacon William Brodie was a good guy by day. He had inherited a lot of money from his father and his grandfather, and he was the Deacon of the Guild of Cabinet Makers, so head of the union, oversimplifying, but there we are. The trouble is he wasn't his father or his grandfather, and he went through his family fortune very, very quickly, but he had to maintain the facade of being rich, so he turned to crime. When he would go into your property to measure up to make furniture, he'd chat away to you and then he'd lean against your key. Oh, we're beginning to get flowers. It's such a pretty plant this, but oh no, the wind's blowing. But it smells like cat pee. It's a weird one. Yeah, so as he's chatting away to you, he'd have a piece of wax in his hand and he'd lean against your key, get an impression of the key, and then he would take it to his friend who would make a copy for him. And he would let himself into your property, take what he wanted, lock up, go home as if nothing had happened. And this went on for about 5 years until he got too big for his boots and he decided to try and rob the excise office, which was in Chesil's Court, which he did. Halfway through the robbery though, there was a clerk working late, came back to the office and saw the place was open but assumed somebody else was working late too, so he took his papers and off he went. But everyone panicked. His accomplices ran away to the grass market, got drunk and told everyone what they'd been up to. So he panicked and he tried to get into the toll booth to see them, to find out whether they were going to, give him up. And he couldn't get in. So he panicked and ran away to Amsterdam, where he wrote home 2 letters with his new name and address on them. Yeah, it wasn't the cleverest move in the world. Anyway, I'm not quite sure why somebody's put "I know where you live." I don't know what that's all about. It's a bit creepy, really. So yeah, you might want to explain yourself a wee bit so I can understand what you're trying to say to me there. Anyway, so yeah, he went to Amsterdam, wrote these 2 letters home and sent them back to Scotland. Now they floated around for a little while before they were eventually handed them in to the police, and at that point he was brought back to Edinburgh, where he was executed on the gallows he designed himself for the city. So there, crime doesn't pay. Now just ahead of us, these arches, this is a 1970s nod to the past. These arches are very typical of how the city looked in the 1600s. In an attempt to gain more space to build, they built out over the shop fronts, created covered areas for people to trade. So that's what we've got going on here. Now you can see we've got this sort of mirrored ceiling, and at night there's beams of light that go down the legs, and it's really pretty. It's just a shame it's not lit up just now for you to see. To be fair, it's dark enough that you could do it. Now just ahead of us on the left, once I get past this van I'll show you, we've actually got a lovely new area that's been built. So they kept the facade. The top end here is sort of 1900s, further down it's, well, we've got 16, 17, 19 and 1500s. But here you can see we've got the old facade and then the brand new. And they did this to make it like a hub. So there's a beautiful open area inside it. Eventually we'll have shops and things, there's accommodation, there's offices, and it's just to regenerate the bottom end of the Royal Mile. I think it's a really a great idea. They had been talking years ago about turning it into a designer hub, but COVID and all sorts of things happened, so I don't think that's what's going to happen to it now. But yeah, it's quite a nice one if you've got time. It's peaceful, you can go and sit in there, have a picnic, you know. And then just ahead of us we've got quite a lot. Coming up ahead on the right with the obelisk gatepost and the balcony, that's Murray House. It's a teacher training college now. But that's where the Treaty of Union was partially signed, in a summer house at the back of the building in 1707. The Treaty of Union was the joining of the Scottish and the English Parliament. Now that section there where the fudge house is, there's a date stone, 1725. So if you look just above the door, above the first window, you can see it, 1725. You also have a crown and a cordoner's knife. That's the crown of St. Crispin, who was the patron saint of cordoners, leather workers. So yeah. Then you have the sort of little porter's lodge here, the obelisk gateposts, beautiful balcony. Oh, it's getting windy again. I'll just take us in and have a little look. So you can see Arthur's, well, you don't see Arthur's Seat, you're actually looking at Salisbury Crags. Arthur's Seat's behind it. And this is the University of Edinburgh, parts of it. So yeah. And again, it's a lovely area in the sun, on a sunny afternoon, just to sit and take a moment to relax. The building itself, this is Murray House, and it was built in the 1620s. That's the gatehouses there. Now that red colour you're seeing is very typical of the old town. Whatever colour pigment you could afford, that's what colour your building would be. So there's lots of very bright colours, very garish. Now the detail on the balcony is just pure showmanship. It's like, look at me, I can afford all this carving. And ahead of us on the left you can see the building with the clock tower. The clock is 1884. The building itself dates to the 1570s. And that's the toll booth of the Canongate. It's a completely, the Canongate was a completely separate town from Edinburgh, so it had its own civic centre. So the toll booth is where you paid your taxes, where you went to prison. It's now the People's Story Museum, which is a free museum all about the social history of Edinburgh. Actually, see if we can get across the road. We will in a second. There. And then you've got toll booth. Oh. It's a braver man than me trying to get out that gap. I have done it before in a car, but yeah. Oh, I'll get round in a second. So that's just looking down, and that's the back of the Canongate down there. And across the road we've got Huntly House, the Museum of Edinburgh. And this is where you'll find Holyroodhouse tree trunks used in the water supply system, sedan chairs, all sorts of things. So it's a really nice one. It's okay as long as you're enjoying it, that's all that matters. Now, it is a beautiful building again, and if you're not interested in the museum, at least you're getting to go into a building from the 1500s. And then just next to it, sitting back there, that is Archibald Aitchison's house, and it has a balcony. If you look over the wall, you can see there's a balcony there. It's the only one left in the old town, but they were very common at one point. Now, this is the Canongate Kirk, the Canongate Church. This is the church the king uses when he's in residence at the palace. It's actually quite unusual because inside it's very light and airy. There's no sort of stained glass windows, and all the pews are painted pale blue. It's called Holyrood blue. And this is the burial ground. In here you've got Robert Ferguson, who was the man that inspired Robert Burns. We'll see a statue when we go out. Clorinda, Agnes McElhose, was the lady that Robert Burns wrote My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose to. You get fantastic views of Calton Hill from here though. Used to be lots of brewing and distilling in the Canongate. So the upturned telescope monument you can see, that's the Nelson Monument, and there's actually a ball at the top. Just before 1 o'clock the ball is raised to the top of the spike. When the 1 o'clock gun at Edinburgh Castle fires, that ball drops. So you either hear the signal or see it. And the long low building above us here, that is, or was, the old Royal High School, designed by Thomas Hamilton, and it's one of the best examples of neoclassical architecture we have, but it has no set purpose, which is a shame. Hopefully at some point it'll be used. I think it'd make a brilliant school for the Gaelic High School, but anyway, that's just me. And then we've got the Burns Monument up on the hill there. Now here we have, this would be like for private burials for a family, and if you look up you can see there's metal bars across the top, and there would have been a gate as well, and this was to protect the freshly buried bodies, because in the Canongate at one point we had 6 firms of resurrectionists working to supply the medical school, or the medical students rather. Now just ahead of us we have got a little grave, lots of leaves next to it. This is where tradition says David Rizzio, Mary Queen of Scots' Italian secretary, is buried. He was buried at the Abbey at Holyrood. People objected and they moved his body here. Oh yeah, no, the Museum of Scotland is free, the Museum of Edinburgh is free, the People's Story Museum is also free. We're very, very lucky. And the National Gallery of Scotland is free, so are the Scottish National Portrait Gallery and the 2 modern art galleries. So we're very lucky that we have lots of places you can actually go in and visit and not have to worry about paying. So this is Robert Ferguson. Now, let me see. Just through the railings here is the Market Cross of the Canongate. So this is the Market Cross of the Market Cross. The one we saw up in Edinburgh with the unicorn on top was very, very fancy. Traditionally this is more like how you'll find them. Oh, thanks for that. Well, it's the first time I've done it in vertical. And to be fair, the first live streams I did were in vertical because I was on a platform called Beams, which I loved. So it's nice to get back to it. It fits on the screen better if you're watching on your mobile, eh? Now in here we have a garden. This is Dunbar Close. This is one of the pocket gardens that were opened up at the beginning of the 1900s by a man called Patrick Geddes. He's known as the father of modern town planning, and he believed that everyone should have access to green spaces. So that's why we've got this still open. Oh, and look, the flowers are coming to life. Isn't that gorgeous? This is a tulip tree which is not native to Scotland, but it's in quite a sheltered position, so it survives. And then we've got the little snowdrops. Now the garden is looked after by the council, so it gets a haircut like twice a year. So it's not, yeah. Some of the balls and things are not quite round anymore and that kind of thing, but you get the idea. And the reason it's laid out like this is because we had lots of maps of what the buildings looked like in the sort of 1700s, and it was very fashionable to have these geometric plantings and things. So when this was opened up as a green space again, that's why they went for this kind of design, which I think works really well. But yeah, I'll do a gardens tour once more things are flowering. But the trouble with this garden is when you walk along that alleyway I just brought you through, people get a bit wary, especially if somebody shuts the gate behind them and think you're not meant to come in here, but you are, you know, it's for everyone to enjoy. And it's easy to find because it's opposite Starbucks. Yeah, I love it too, to be fair, but I'm biased. It's where I'm from. So yeah, so as we come down, we're going to end up down at the palace. Now just ahead on the right, you've got an old Victorian school, which is actually still used as a school today. It's now the Royal Mile Primary School. Oh dear, that's quite windy, sorry about that. Here we are. So yeah, still in use, and you can see another one of these police boxes just sitting in there. It's now a book box, so the idea is you take a book, you leave a book. And then just coming up on our left, we have the Canongate Manse. Now you see the line of the houses here, it's straight across. However, Reed's Court is actually the only building in the Old Town that has a front garden area. It's an old coaching inn from the 1700s. So, but they still have this open space. Nothing was built in front of it. If you look here, you can see houses built on the front, and the same at this side. Oh, Agatha, it'd be great if you could visit again. There's so much to see, that's the thing. And then you can just see through the gap the think pods for the Scottish Parliament, the new building at the back there. Clarinda's tea room, it's like an old-fashioned tea room, you know, scones and all that kind of thing. Right. Well, I mean, apart from the wind and a little bit of rain, it's been not too bad. And to be fair, the gimbal seems to handle the phone being vertical much more easily than it being horizontal, so that's a bonus. Now across the road, the white building with the orange roof. Well, this is Queensberry House. It never had a red pantile roof. It always had a slate roof, but when they built the Scottish Parliament, for some unknown reason, they decided to take the beautiful slate roof off and put this red pantile roof on. Now if you're one of the largest landowners in Scotland, you are not having ballast as your roofing material, because it was used as ballast in ships. Instead of sending a ship across from the continent empty with rocks to keep it down in the water, they put pantiles in, and then the fishing villages used the pantiles as roofing material. But for some reason they decided, no, we're going to take the beautiful slate roof off and put this hideous red one on. And the worst bit is, if you look to the side there, you can just see poking up over the top a little roof line. That's the slate roof of the side part of the building. So the whole roof was the slate. Yeah, I've got a bee in my bonnet about that one, to be fair. Now here we've got the Scottish War Veterans Residence, Holyroodhouse. Anyone that served in the armed forces, male or female, that needs extra support can come and stay here. And we have an artificial bowling lawn just at the back of here. Now, the Scottish Parliament estimated cost to build was about £40 million. It actually cost in the end £424 million, so slightly over budget. Now, I'm not going to take you into Whitehorse Close because the signal isn't that good, and I don't want to lose you. We're nearly at the palace, so I want you to see that. But hopefully we can see it through the archway from here. Isn't that gorgeous? So that's a coaching inn from the 1500s. Whitehorse Close. We actually have two white horses in the Canongate, which caused a lot of confusion for a lot of people for centuries. But yeah, anyway. So you have the Queen's Gallery just coming into view. The royal family have a lot of artwork in their collection, so they rotate it around the galleries to let us see. So we've had Da Vinci, we've had all sorts. But I'm going to take you across the road, we'll get a closer look. Right. Okie dokie. It's nice and quiet, thankfully. Sometimes it can be quite busy down here trying to get across the road, but we're gonna make it. I'm going to take you into the Physic Garden first. So the Physic Garden is just here. It opened just after COVID, and the Physic Garden is basically reminding us that this is where the Royal Botanic Garden of Edinburgh started. It started here. Dr. Sibbald wanted good quality medicinal herbs, so he paid a gardener to tend the land here and look after his medicinal plants, and yeah, it just grew and grew and grew from there. Moved around a couple of times and ended up at Inverleith. And these are the sanctuary buildings, which is now Holyrood Apartments. I don't know, we'll have a look at the front, I forgot what they're called. Abbey Strand Apartments, that's it. Now you have a meadow area taking us back further to the Abbey time. That little building at the end is known as Queen Mary's Bathhouse. Traditionally, it's said that Mary Queen of Scots bathed in that building twice a year in either white wine or ass's milk. But more likely it was like a little pavilion because we had the royal tennis courts, so it was probably somewhere for private dining and that kind of thing. Now if that door's open, you could just walk straight through the building and you're out on Abbey Strand, but we're just going to come out this way. Right. Oh, it's beginning to take place. There's bulbs planted here, spring bulbs, and they're in geometric patterns. So once they're all in bloom, you'll be able to see a pattern in the grass, which is lovely. There we are. Now, on the wall ahead of us, you can see the unicorn. That's the cipher for James V. You've got IR5, James Rex 5. So King James V. And then here we have the Abbey and the palace. So the Abbey was founded in 1128 by David I. The tower that we're looking at is the oldest tower, and that is where Mary Queen of Scots had her royal apartments. It was built in 1503 by James IV, who married Margaret Tudor, and she was only 13 at the time, and he didn't want her living up at the castle. It was quite a hard life up there, so he built onto the Abbey to give her somewhere nice to stay. And if you just look through, you can see the other side has been added later because there's windows and doors on the ground floor, and then you've got the fountain in the forecourt there. It only works when the Queen is in residence or King Charles, or there's something special going on. Now this little section of the street here is called Abbey Strand, and where those people are crossing, you can see it goes from setts or cobbles to tarmac, and that's the line of the sanctuary, because you could still claim sanctuary. So debtors would run down, cross that line, and they'd be safe. They wouldn't go to prison. And they had, I think it was something like 40 days to pay off their debts. And they were nicknamed the Abbey Lairds or the Abbey Lords. And I'm just going to show you the brass S's. So you can see it says the Royal Mile, Abbey Strand Apartments, and then you've got Abbey Strand. And then as we turn round, get in the front of the Scottish Parliament again. And here you can see the S's marking the line of the sanctuary. Right. I hope you enjoyed that. It was fun doing it vertically for a change. If you did enjoy it and you want to support the channel, please remember to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and in the description there are links to my PayPal, my coffee, buy me a coffee and things. If you could support me financially, I would really appreciate it. Thank you everyone. Hope to see you again. Bye.